If she never calls or texts first, stop chasing. Mirror her energy. Withdraw your constant attention and focus on yourself. Build your life, your confidence, your value. Silence reveals truth. If she cares, she'll reach out. Respect yourself enough to let her actions show where she truly stands. When you place value on your presence first, everything else in your relationships begins to shift. Most people make the mistake of thinking that attention, constant calls, and endless effort will win someone's respect or affection. But the truth is, the more you chase, the less you are valued. A presence that is always available, always waiting, always ready to respond, slowly loses its significance. Value is created through scarcity, through boundaries, and through self-respect. If she never calls or texts you first, it's not because she doesn't own a phone, it's because she doesn't feel the need to. And the reason she doesn't feel the need to is that you've already made yourself too available. When someone doesn't initiate, it's a clear sign that they are comfortable letting you carry the entire weight of communication. This comfort doesn't come from affection, it comes from habit. And habits are only broken when you stop reinforcing them. If you always text first, always call first, and always keep the connection alive, you're silently teaching her that your presence requires no effort on her part. You're telling her, without words, that you will always be there no matter what she does or doesn't do. Over time, that makes your presence lose its value. When you begin to value yourself, everything changes. You stop running after attention and instead demand it naturally by how you carry yourself. Think of this. The most powerful people in the world do not chase attention. Attention naturally gravitates towards them. Why? Because their presence has weight and their absence has impact. If you want to be respected, if you want her to notice you, your presence must carry that same energy. And the way to do this is to first acknowledge your worth. Stop thinking of yourself as someone who needs validation. Start thinking of yourself as someone whose time and attention are gifts, not something to be taken for granted. Valuing your presence means you choose carefully where your energy goes. You don't hand it out to anyone who doesn't invest back into you. If she never reaches out, stop giving her the satisfaction of always being the one to keep the connection alive. Step back. Let silence do the talking. You'll be surprised how quickly people notice when your energy is no longer directed at them. Suddenly, the absence they once ignored becomes impossible to overlook. And here's the truth. If she cares, she will feel your absence. If she doesn't, then your silence will reveal it. Either way, you win, because you stop wasting time on someone who cannot see your worth. Valuing your presence first doesn't mean you're cold or distant. It means you know your value and refuse to lower it just to be noticed. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. And the moment you practice it, people will learn that your presence is never cheap. It is earned. When someone shows you how much effort they are willing to invest in you, believe them. Energy never lies. If she never calls or texts you first, yet you keep initiating every time, you're not mirroring her energy. You're overcompensating. Relationships, no matter the stage, thrive on balance. When one person is carrying all the weight, sooner or later, resentment begins to grow. The simplest and most powerful way to restore balance is to mirror the effort being given. Not more, not less, just equal. Mirroring her energy is not about playing games. It is about aligning yourself with reality. If she makes time for you, you make time for her. If she shows consistency, you give consistency in return. But if she shows indifference, if she never initiates, if she leaves you to do all the work, then you step back and allow her to experience the same. Too many people believe that if they keep giving more, eventually the other person will recognize their worth. That is rarely the case. In fact, the opposite happens. The more you give without receiving anything back, the more you teach her that she doesn't need to invest. When you mirror her energy, you create clarity. Suddenly, she is faced with the truth of her own actions. If she chooses not to reach out, she begins to experience silence. If she chooses not to make an effort, she realizes you won't continue pouring from your side endlessly. That contrast is powerful. It forces her to ask herself, do I care enough to bridge this gap? And if the answer is yes, you will see her initiate. If the answer is no, she will remain distant, and that is still an answer. There's something deeply attractive about someone who doesn't overextend themselves for people who don't reciprocate. It communicates self-respect. It communicates confidence. It communicates that you are not desperate for anyone's attention. When she sees that you mirror her energy instead of chasing after her with one-sided effort, she is confronted with your strength. People respect boundaries, even when they don't admit it. By refusing to give more than what is given to you, you establish a standard, equal investment, or nothing at all. Understand this. Mirroring her energy does not mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself enough not to waste your emotional energy. You are showing that love, communication, and connection should be mutual. That is not coldness. That is maturity. If she truly values you, she will step up when she realizes the effort is not only expected, but required. If she doesn't, then your silence saves you from clinging to an illusion. So instead of waiting for her to notice all the extra effort you put in, simply reflect hers. If she gives little, give little back. If she gives much, meet her at that level. Balance is not only attractive, it's essential. Because in the end, the right person won't let you do it all alone. They will match your energy willingly. Attention is one of the most powerful currencies you hold, and the way you spend it determines how people perceive your worth. When you give someone unlimited access to your time, energy, and focus without requiring anything in return, you unintentionally cheapen your own value. If she never calls or texts first, and yet you keep pouring out your attention, you're teaching her that your energy is free, abundant, and always available, no matter how little she invests. And what is always available, always accessible, and always predictable quickly loses its impact. Withdrawing your attention doesn't mean you become cold, bitter, or hostile. It means you choose to stop rewarding indifference with your effort. When someone feels they don't have to work for your presence, they stop appreciating it. They take it as a given. By pulling back, by stepping into silence, you shift the dynamic. Suddenly, the thing she overlooked begins to stand out. The energy she once assumed would always be there begins to feel scarce. Scarcity awakens awareness, and awareness awakens value. Think about it. When you stop texting first, when you stop making the calls, when you stop being the one to always keep the conversation alive, she is confronted with a reality she didn't expect. The stream of attention is no longer flowing. At that moment, she has two choices. She either fills the silence by reaching out, or she doesn't. And whichever path she takes gives you clarity. If she reaches out, you know she noticed your absence. If she doesn't, then you know your presence was never valued in the first place. Either way, your decision to withdraw your attention protects your self-respect. There's a reason attention is so powerful. It communicates priority. When you consistently place someone at the top of your priority list while they don't even attempt to place you on theirs, you're handing over your power. By pulling back, you reclaim that power. You redirect your focus toward yourself, your goals, your growth, and the people who genuinely appreciate you. And this shift does something remarkable. It changes the energy you project. Instead of giving off desperation, you radiate strength. Instead of appearing needy, you appear self-sufficient. That energy is far more attractive than any text or call you could send. The truth is, when you withdraw your attention, you're not punishing anyone. You're simply refusing to reward behavior that doesn't value you. And in doing so, you create space for people who will. Because attention, when used wisely, becomes a filter. It filters out those who only take without giving, and it highlights those who are willing to reciprocate. By stepping back, you are not losing someone. You are gaining clarity about where you truly stand, and that clarity is priceless. When you shift your focus from chasing someone's attention to building your own life, everything changes. Too many people waste energy waiting for a call, hoping for a text, or constantly checking their phone to see if they matter to someone else. That cycle not only drains you, but also distracts you from the one thing that truly matters, your growth. When you stop centering your life around whether she reaches out or not, you suddenly free up an incredible amount of time and energy to pour back into yourself. Growth is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who are progressing, evolving, and moving forward in life. When you focus on your goals, your health, your finances, and your passions, you begin to radiate an energy that cannot be ignored. You stop looking like someone who is waiting to be chosen and start looking like someone who chooses themselves every single day. That shift is powerful because nothing is more attractive than independence and ambition. Instead of wondering why she doesn't text first, invest that energy into creating a lifestyle that excites you. Read, learn, work out, build your career, sharpen your skills, chase the goals you've been putting off. Every time you invest in yourself, you increase your value. And the truth is, when you raise your value, people are forced to see you differently. Suddenly, the same person who overlooked you begins to notice your absence and your progress. She sees that your life is moving with or without her, and that realization often sparks curiosity and regret. But here's the important part. Your growth should never be motivated by her reaction. Do it for yourself. Do it because you refuse to waste your prime years waiting for someone to acknowledge you. Do it because you deserve a life that reflects your potential. The right people will naturally be drawn to that energy, while the wrong ones will fade away. Both outcomes serve you. When you focus on your growth, you take control of the narrative. Instead of being the one who waits for attention, you become the one who gives attention selectively. You stop being reactive to someone else's behavior and become proactive about your own journey. That shift builds confidence, self-respect, and resilience. Even if she never calls or texts first, you won't feel the loss because your life is too full, too vibrant, too meaningful to be shaken by her silence. Growth is the ultimate answer to indifference. It makes you untouchable because once you are deeply invested in yourself, her lack of effort no longer hurts. It simply reveals the truth. And the truth is, when you grow, you win regardless of who chooses to stay or walk away. The reason people value gold, diamonds, and rare treasures is not because they are simply beautiful. It is because they are scarce. What is easily found, what is always available, what can be reached without effort, rarely holds the same weight. The same truth applies to human connections. If you are always calling, always texting, always initiating, your presence becomes too common. She doesn't feel the need to reach out first because she knows you will eventually do it. There's no urgency, no risk of losing you, no value attached to her effort. But when you step back, when you create scarcity around your attention, suddenly your presence transforms from ordinary to significant. Scarcity creates awareness. When something that was always there disappears, people notice its absence immediately. That silence, that pause, that break in the pattern forces her to feel what she has been taking for granted. She starts to wonder why you haven't reached out. She begins to think about you instead of assuming you are thinking about her. That subtle shift changes the entire dynamic. What once felt predictable becomes uncertain, and uncertainty triggers curiosity. But this isn't about playing games. Scarcity is not manipulation. It is a reflection of your self-worth. You are not withdrawing your presence to trick her into valuing you. You are simply no longer offering unlimited access to someone who isn't reciprocating. It's about teaching through action that your time, your energy, and your presence are privileges, not guarantees. And the moment you live by that standard, people either rise to meet it or fall away. Either way, you win. The beauty of scarcity is that it naturally filters out the people who are only there because of convenience. If she never bothers to initiate, even when you step back, then you've been given your answer. She was never truly invested. And that truth, while painful, is liberating because it saves you from wasting months or years chasing someone who would never have valued you. On the other hand, if she does begin to notice, if she reaches out, if she makes the effort, then your decision to create scarcity has awakened her to your worth. Scarcity also fuels desire. The most magnetic people in the world are those who are not always available, who do not give themselves away too easily, and who make others work to earn their presence. That doesn't mean you should be distant or cold. It simply means you should have a life so full, so rich, so purpose-driven that your time becomes precious. When your schedule is occupied with growth, passions, and meaningful pursuits, your presence automatically becomes scarce, and people naturally value what is rare. In the end, scarcity is not about withholding, it is about balance. It's about refusing to give endless energy to someone who doesn't contribute equally. It's about stepping back so others can step forward. And most importantly, it's about reminding yourself that the rarer your presence, the more powerful its impact. Testing her intentions is not about tricking her or setting up some clever plan. It's about stepping back and allowing her actions to reveal the truth. Words are easy. Consistency is rare. Anyone can say they care, but real interest always shows up in behavior. If she never calls or texts first, the only way to truly understand where you stand is to stop initiating and see what she does with the silence. That is the purest test of intentions. When you stop reaching out, you give her the space to choose. Will she step forward and make an effort, or will she remain silent and let the connection fade? That answer tells you everything you need to know. If she values you, she will notice the shift immediately. She will feel the absence of your energy and decide to act on it. It may come as a simple, "Hey, how have you been?" or it may be more direct. But the point is, she will take the initiative. If she doesn't, then the silence becomes your answer. Her interest was never strong enough to move her. Testing intentions is powerful because it prevents you from living in illusions. Many people waste years convincing themselves that someone cares simply because they respond when contacted. But responses are not effort. Real effort is shown by initiation, by someone taking the time to reach out without needing a reminder. When you step back and observe, you separate genuine interest from convenience. You stop guessing and start seeing the truth. The beauty of this test is that it requires no confrontation, no begging, and no arguments. You don't need to explain to her why you're stepping back. You don't need to announce it. All you need to do is withdraw your constant effort and allow her to reveal her priorities. Silence is a mirror, and what comes back to you is the truth of her heart. Sometimes testing her intentions will sting. You may realize she never reaches out at all, and that realization can feel like rejection. But in reality, it's a gift, because now you know exactly where you stand and you're free to redirect your energy to people who actually value you. On the other hand, if she does step up, you gain clarity too. You see that she was waiting for space to show her interest, and your silence gave her that chance. The key is to remain calm during this process. Do not test her with expectations or timelines. Simply live your life, focus on your growth, and let her actions speak. The results may surprise you, but they will never lie, because at the end of the day, true intentions don't need to be forced. They reveal themselves when given the opportunity. One of the most common mistakes people make when they feel neglected is to argue, complain, or demand explanations. They try to convince someone to treat them better by using words, but respect is never won through begging. The moment you start explaining why you deserve attention, you hand over your power. You shift from being someone of value to someone seeking validation. And the harder you argue for your place, the easier it becomes for her to take you for granted. When she never calls or texts first, you may feel tempted to confront her. Why don't you ever reach out? Why am I always the one making the effort? Those words might feel justified, but they rarely create the result you want. Instead of sparking effort, they often spark excuses or defensiveness. She may say she's busy, distracted, or just not the type to initiate. But behind every excuse is a simple truth. If she wanted to, she would. No amount of arguing will change that reality. The most powerful response is silence. Don't argue, don't explain, don't justify why you are stepping back. Just let your actions speak for you. When you stop initiating, when you withdraw your constant attention, the message is louder than any words you could say. Your absence says what your arguments never could. I will not overextend myself for someone who does not value me. That statement, made without a single word, carries more weight than hours of confrontation. Explanations are unnecessary because they attempt to convince someone of your worth, but your worth is not up for debate. The right person will see it without you having to spell it out. The wrong person will ignore it no matter how beautifully you explain. So why waste energy trying to persuade? Instead, stand firm in silence and let her actions reveal the truth. When you refuse to argue or explain, you maintain your dignity. You show that your standards are non-negotiable. You do not chase, you do not beg, and you do not try to force someone to recognize what they should already see. That calm strength is magnetic. It communicates that you are not desperate for approval and that you value yourself enough to walk away from anything one-sided. In relationships, energy speaks louder than words. People don't remember your arguments. They remember how they feel in your presence and how they feel in your absence. By stepping back without explanation, you allow her to experience what life is like without your consistent effort. That experience will either wake her up to your value or confirm her lack of interest. Either way, you get clarity, and you get it without lowering yourself to arguments that never change anything. Control in any relationship is not about dominance, it's about balance. When you are the only one calling, the only one texting, the only one initiating, you silently hand over all the control. She decides when to respond, if to respond, and how much energy to invest, while you keep putting in the work without question. That imbalance drains your confidence because it places your sense of worth in her hands. The moment you stop and shift the control back to yourself, the dynamic changes completely. Shifting control is about reclaiming your power. Instead of waiting for her to choose you, you choose yourself. Instead of sitting by the phone, you put your energy into your own life. This doesn't mean you shut her out or play games. It simply means you stop letting her lack of effort dictate your emotional state. You are no longer controlled by whether she texts or doesn't text, whether she calls or stays silent. You decide how much energy you give, and you decide who is worthy of your time. When you take back control, you send a message without speaking. I am not dependent on your attention to feel valuable. That quiet confidence is incredibly powerful. People respect those who respect themselves. The moment she realizes that you are not waiting, not chasing, not begging, she is faced with a new reality. Your energy is no longer free. And when your energy is no longer free, it becomes desirable. This shift also creates clarity. If she truly cares, she will notice the change and adjust her behavior. She will step forward to keep the connection alive. But if she doesn't, then your silence has saved you from wasting time in a one-sided effort. Either way, by shifting control back to yourself, you gain freedom. You stop being reactive to her and start being proactive about your own life. Control is not about manipulation. It's not about making her chase you. It's about owning your choices, your time, and your attention. When you place yourself at the center of your life, you become unshakable. Her actions no longer determine your mood, your day, or your confidence. That emotional independence is what makes you powerful, because no matter what she does, you remain steady, calm, and in control of yourself. In the end, shifting control back to you is about recognizing your worth. It's about refusing to let anyone else dictate how much effort you should give. When you reclaim that control, you stop operating from need and start operating from strength. And that strength doesn't just change how she sees you, it changes how you see yourself. At the end of the day, everything comes down to one truth. You teach people how to treat you. If she never calls or texts you first, it's not your job to argue, beg, or force her to see your value. Your job is to recognize your own worth, mirror her effort, withdraw your attention when it isn't appreciated, and redirect your focus toward your own growth. Scarcity creates value, and when you step back, her true intentions will always reveal themselves. The most powerful response you can give is silence, self-respect, and control over your own energy. Because the right woman will never let you carry it all alone. She will meet you with the same effort, the same respect, and the same consistency you deserve. Until then, keep your dignity intact and never forget that your presence is the gift, not the chase.